cards in the strict game sense, in that cards that reference cards don't reference these. If it says gain a card, you can't gain this. In fact, you can never gain these. These aren't gainable things. They don't go in your deck. You do buy them, but basically when you buy them, it's you're buying the effect of the event. You're not buying any kind of like permanent. Well, some of them have permanent effects for you or semi-permanent effects, but okay. Alms costs 0. These all cost a buy to buy. There's something you buy during your buy phase that costs a buy, and however much is at the top left here, and then you get whatever effect. Alms, once per turn. And I will note that all of the events that say once per turn, it's not just that you get the effect once per turn, you're actually only allowed legally, it's in the rules, you're only allowed to buy the thing once per turn. Yeah, my mic was out because I had to adjust something, so I had to take my mic off for a second, but it should be back now. Once per turn, if you have no treasures in play, gain a card costing up to 4. So, yeah, this one seems pretty good. You just spend a buy to gain a card that costs up to 4. Well, that's very nice if you have a spare buy lying around. It'd probably be broken if, like, anything that give you plus buys reasonably would break it if it didn't have the once per turn restriction. Turn 1 or 2, if you have 2 or 3 money, you can gain a card costing up to 4 when you otherwise couldn't. 2-5 split, you can open 4-5. That's very good. And it's just like you're only gaining a 4 cost, so it's like probably not that great. And you do need to have no treasures in play. So, like, that's a thing. But, if you trash them all, or even like, I don't know, can you Gardens Rush with this? Like, you probably can, right? I mean, you're going to need some action to go with it, probably, but, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really going to be that great, because usually it's just like you're going to want to buy something more expensive anyway. You're going to want to spend your 5 or more money. You're going to probably spend some treasures. You're probably not really that keen on just like as a big part of your game plan. Yeah. Yeah, so JSH is saying you can in fact Gardens Rush with it, throw in a plus buy card. Yeah, I was thinking like, Woodcutter. Can you imagine Alms and Gardens and Messenger? Even just like, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, there's just like a lot of things like you can have gimpy turns. Like, this saves you from the Masquerade pins, right? You can still gain 4 costs. You can end the game for sure. This saves you from Torturer pins, potentially. Like, this can do a lot for you. I mean, I don't think that's really, like, great, but, okay, anyway. I'm gonna move on though. That seems like a very nice role player. I mean, I still don't think. I think usually you're like, oh, I get to gain a 4 cost if I didn't have treasures in play, and I spend a buy anyway. Like that's not like some kind of like, oh man, this is just completely what. I mean, at the very least, you get to open 4-4 or 4-5. Like, hey, that's good. Okay. Ball. Costs 5. Take your -1 money token, which means the next time you make a money, you make 1 less instead, or you don't make any instead. Hold on. I gotta find that rule thing. Dang it, where is that? Up, up. Trashing token, journey token, estate token. Okay, here we go. Causes to get 1 less. Yeah, it's just 1 less. Great. That's what I thought. It's not none, it's 1 less. Ball. Take your -1 money token. Gain 2 cards, each costing up to 4. And they are noting that it doesn't have once per turn. So if you can make 10 and 2 buys, you already have your or if you already have your token or whatever, then you can get around that downside. You're getting 2 cards that cost up to 4. You know, that's okay. Sometimes 2 4 costs is yeah. Next time you make 1, you get coin. You make 1 less coin and lose the token. What I'm saying, like, if I would have played like a terminal silver or something, you know, if I play Swindler, I still make 1 out of that Swindler and lose my token. It's not that I make 0. That's what I was clarifying. So if I already have this, then I get a game 2 costing up to 4. Honestly, that doesn't seem great, because usually I think I'd rather have a 5 cost in a lot of cases. But, I mean, okay, so JSH is saying price reduction. Yeah, if there's price reduction, you gain 2 5s. That's very good. But, like, usually, or pretty often, I'd rather have a 5 than 2 4s. Although pretty often, I guess I'd rather have 2 up to 4s. And then, like, the -1 coin token, hey, that's a thing on top of it. I don't expect to want this very much. But in some situations it can be real nice. You know, sometimes you do want a lot of 4s, like things you would workshop for, you might want to get this for. I just think usually it's not going to be great. Obviously it's going to be board dependent like everything else though. Bonfire is a 3 event. It's trash up to 2 cards you have in play. Well, okay, basically that's probably going to be coppers. Yeah, you're just going to trash coppers. And trash 2 coppers for 3 money. That seems pretty good, actually. That's pretty quick. You do have to spend money to do it, but you don't have to get a card for it. So, yeah. This seems pretty good, pretty reasonable. JSH says you can also trash ruins. That's a good thing to note. Yeah, about Bonfire. Because you can play those and then trash them. You can trash your Necropolis with it. Yeah, so you can also trash a trasher or something. You know, play your chapel, trash nothing. You can't normally trash your estates, as Seprix points out. And by the time, the only case which you can trash your estates, you probably don't want to anymore, but we'll get to that in a minute. Uh, so yeah, mostly it's going to be a Copper Treasure, I think. I don't think you're usually going to want to open with it, but I don't think that's going to be crazy either. Open Chapel or open Bonfire and some 4 cost. You get to get rid of your coppers real fast. But it's a nice little handy. Well, I was going to say card, but it's not a card. It's an event. Borrow is plus a buy. It costs 0. Plus a buy. Once per turn. If your +1 card token, or if your -1 card token, excuse me, isn't on your deck, put it there and plus a money. Now, when your -1 card token's on your deck, the next time you would draw cards, and it needs to specifically say draw cards, you draw 1 less card and take the token off your deck. Okay? So, great. Basically, since it takes a buy to get this, the plus buy just replaces the buy that you spent on this. It smooths out your draws, basically. A card is, I think, it's not something that you just always want to do, but because I think a card is usually a little bit more valuable than a money. But on the other hand, now is usually more valuable than later, and if it's helping you hit a key price point difference, that's usually going to, well, not usually, but that's often going to be worth it. And so it seems like, it seems like something that you might really well want to do. People are saying that opening Bonfire seems great. I agree. Like, I think you want to get something else. And JSH says, one sort of narrow case is that if you have 4 cards on your deck, Borrow can prevent a bad reshuffle. Yeah, I think I might have mentioned that in the preview thread. It seems super edge casey to me, but I'm sure it will come up if you know what your 4 cards are sometimes. But it at least makes it free. But I mean, you might even do it just like as a benefit. But anyway, so the thing is, you gotta measure. You got to measure how bad it is to have a 4-card hand the next turn. Since there are very few cards that you'd be able to do something after buying a card that are going to make you draw. This is basically going to make it the next time you draw your hand, instead of drawing a 5-card hand, you draw a 4-card hand. So anyway, yeah, like being able to buy what you want, it's just like it's a big deal. So you're probably going to end up using this like a lot. You probably don't want to use it every turn because 4-card hands kind of chunky. Although if you're likely to hit with a discard attack anyway, then it mitigates it somewhat. Although you don't get to choose which card of the 5 because it's just the 5th one. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to move on now and talk about Expedition. Expedition costs 3, and it says draw 2 extra cards for your next hand. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like, drawing 2 cards is quite nice. You do need a buy to spend on it, but it could well be worth it. I guess the borrow thing is if you're getting minion attacked for sure, then it really doesn't matter because they would be giving you a random 4 anyway. But Anyway, Expedition, drawing the extra cards, like, that's a big deal. That's like smithying your next... Playing a smithy your next turn without using the action. So I guess more like 2 labs the next turn, like... Yeah. And you can buy more than one, so you could get a whole bunch of labs your next turn, which is a really powerful effect for 3. You got to do it all the time. You need extra buys, and you're going to need some money to power it. But if you have an extra buy and 3 money lying around, it's probably going to be good. Better than silver? Well, if your deck already has enough economy to get to the price points it needs, then yes. And an engine particularly. In big money decks, eventually it will be better than silver too, but probably not very early. Okay, I'm going to move on now to Fairy, which also costs 3. It says, move your -2 coin cost token to an action supply pile. Cards from that pile cost 2 less on your turns, but not less than 0. Wow. This seems insanely good. Particularly with plus buy. Like, Fairy just seems like very, 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 very good. Very good. Very, very good. You just like, there's some action card pile you want. Like, you're gonna open with Fairy a lot. Like, every time. Right? Like, you open Fairy, and then you, on turn 2, buy your $3 lab. And then you just buy lab, 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 every turn until they're gone. Then you buy Fairy again and move to some other 5 or 6 cost action. Like, this card seems broken. Honestly, it does. Like, you need to do other stuff too, but oh my gosh. This thing only costs 3? I think the card, this event seems like it could cost 5. Very easily. Like, yeah, the card seems super powerful. Or the event seems super powerful. Like, but you know, they did a lot of testing, whatever, so maybe it's not that good. Probably because your opponent's doing the same thing, but like, it's broken because my opponent is doing this, or it's not broken because my opponent gets to do the same thing, doesn't really mean it's not broken. Like, you know, if there was a card that was like $1, gain a province, like, the card would be broken even though your opponent could also go for it. Like, yeah, I don't know. This I mean, obviously there's going to be some times when there are no events that making them cheaper really does anything for you, but usually I think there will be. Not events, actions. Like, yeah. I don't know. This card seems like the most broken thing I've seen. Like, wow. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Inheritance. This is great. Once per turn, set aside a non-victory action card from the supply, costing up to 4. So no island, no Great Hall. But, yeah. Move your estate token to that pile. Your estates gain the abilities and types of that card. So, this also seems really strong, unless you have really, really strong trashing. Just like, because buying this, basically you immediately trash 3 estates and turn them in to whatever particular action. So smithy or village or whatever it is. And even if, like, well, 3 smithies, that's more terminals than my deck could handle. Like, it's still way better than having them be estates. And now, beyond that, I will also be able to buy estates and have them be that action card. plus a plus a victory point, which is not great. But honestly, it's probably not that game warpingly good. Just because you do need to hit 7, which is not something that you can just reliably do, or especially do very early. And I think almost any like reasonably good trashing is probably just going to be better to just like trash those things. But I still think that there are going to be a lot of cases where it's pretty good. I think this is actually quite a reasonable card, but pretty good. Or event. Certainly not as good as like Ferry. Maybe not even as good as like Expedition or Bonfire or Borrower Alms. Yeah. So, it's pretty much just better to buy estates than whatever that card is after you have inheritance out. And like the estate pile can run because they're also going to go for inheritance. But I mean, unless you're like worried about that pile running out, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, Lost Arts. Lost Arts says cost 6. Says move your +1 action token to an action supply pile. And that means when you play a card from that pile, you first get +1 action. Yeah, this card seems very good. Like, very good. Generally, if there's, I mean, you're going to want to put it on, like, if there's no terminals, obviously, the Lost Arts doesn't do anything for you. But if there's terminals you want to play, then this card also seems like potentially broken. Maybe not quite as broken as Ferry, but like pretty broken. You just stick it on a smithy. I mean, I guess the thing is, like, they're going to be doing the same thing, and they're going to contest you, and it's not like you can get, like, 5, but, like, whatever, like, you have to do that. So, that's very good. Like, if there is a reasonable terminal to spam, and I gotta tell you, most terminals are reasonable to spam. 6 is also, like, a lot cheaper than 7, so, like, it's not that crazy to go to open, like, if there's a smithy or something, to open smithy silver, and if I get my smithy on turn 3, or even if I get it on turn 4, be able to make 6 with it. And now all my smithies are get plus an action, and now I can tell you for sure that all I'm doing for the next several turns, maybe I get a plus buy or something, but pretty much all I'm doing for the next several turns is buying smithy, 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 till the piles are out. Because, like, wow, very good. But even on something like Monument, or, you know, I mean, I think it's a little bit better on cheaper things than expensive things, but whatever. You can move it around, but, I don't know. You stick it on bridge. That seems really good. A non-terminal bridge. Hello. That seems really, really good. Yeah, I think very often there's just like, this card's gonna be pretty broken. This card seems like pretty broken. These cards seem like good role players. And this card seems like it can be a good role player. And this is just like very good. Okay, mission. Mission, once per turn, if the previous turn wasn't yours, take another turn after this one. So there's an anti-get all the turns clause. Take another turn after this one in which you can't buy cards. So you can buy events, if there's another event, or you can gain cards, and you can still dish out attacks. Probably you're going to need something to... You're going to need an engine that does a lot of work by gaining for mission to be good, probably. Although, it's possible that you will sometimes buy it maybe just to cycle Um, but certainly maybe just to attack them doesn't seem crazy. Generally, I think if you're just doing one of those things, you'd probably be better buying a card, but sometimes it'll come up. Um, like even just to cycle, maybe. Um, if you know that, like, say you're playing Rebuild or Mountebank, and you know that that card is not in your next hand somehow, like, you can pay for it, just cycle. Um, yeah, I don't know. Seems situationally very good. Like in a Horn of Plenty engine, it's like going to be nutso busted. But in general, not great. But you're going to know when it's good. Pathfinding. Pathfinding costs 8. Move your +1 card token to an action supply pile. Whenever you play a card out of that pile, you get to draw an extra card. Wow, this seems very good. It does cost 8. So that's a thing. Yeah, but if you can get it down, I mean, I guess the thing is here costing 8 is like such a big cost that it's going to be hard to get it early. This is probably not like broken, but I imagine like it's better than the other, like the Kingdom card that costs 8. Like, would I rather have something in play every turn, or would I rather be able to draw a card for every whatever plentiful like card in my deck? Like I'd rather draw the extra card. I think this is going to be very good. Basically, you need some non-terminal that you want to play a lot, or if you already have a lot of villages, anything you want to play a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Any card that you want to play a lot, like just drawing an extra card for every play of that, it's such a powerful effect. Once you get this down, like you can just immediately just like add a bunch of payload to your deck. I mean, first of all, you probably want to pile out on these things first. You're gonna need some plus buy to make it worth it, probably. But almost anything, it's gonna be worth it. I mean, the only exception is like if there's like just nothing on the board, and you just have to play big money. Like, it's probably better to get a province than this. But if you're building an engine, like, no, you just want to draw more cards. That's like what you need to do in an engine. Because the only thing about this is that it costs 8, so usually by the time you're making 8, like, you can already draw anyway pretty well. But even so, like, not to mention, you could try to, like, you could focus more on earlier economy, so you can get 8, and then suddenly you can draw a lot better. And you are drawing your deck a lot more. So it might be able, like, it would not at all surprise me if it's good enough to, like, change how you play just to, yeah. So I think this card's pretty good. But not as broken, I don't think, as Fairy, which still seems like probably the most broken. And it wouldn't surprise me if Lost Arts is often better than Pathfinding, just because of the cost difference. This effect has got to be more powerful, but certain turns anyway. Okay. Pilgrimage. Once per turn, take your journey token, or turn your journey token over. Again, it reminds you that it starts face up. Then if it's face up, choose up to 3 differently named cards you have in play, and gain a copy of each. So half the time, this gains you up to 3 cards, which can be really, really good. But it's only half the turns. You can't do it the first time. Like, half the time, you have to spend 4 to do nothing. Which, I guess sometimes you do, like, it doesn't hurt that much, but, like, yeah, if you have the money to spare, like, gaining 3 yeah, I mean, obviously, like, sometimes it's just, like, very, very powerful, and, like, yeah, I get to spend 4 twice, and then I get to gain any 3 cards as long as they're differently named. Yeah, so this is really strong in a lot of engines, probably. Not very good otherwise. Might have some interaction with the other journey token things. But at least, you already need to have your engine going before this is probably going to do much anything. So that's something. And it does take a couple turns. So it's not too crazy, but it seems very good. Okay, plan. Move your tracking? Trashing. Excuse me, your trashing token to an action supply pile. When you buy a card from that pile, trash a card from your hand. So you need to have some kind of a spammable pile that you're going to be perfectly happy buying a lot of that card. If you do, so this is a you may, so that's good. If you do, then this card seems very good. Well, pretty good. You're still only trashing 1 card, and it has to be in your plant, but but you really need that, like, spammable card that you want to get a decent amount of. So, you know, if there's like an Ironmonger on the board, or something like that, you're going to be buying a lot of them anyway, to buy that and trash a card seems probably good enough to open with. But I don't think it's just like an always, you're just always going to do this. Because you need to have that spammable card. It's got to be pretty cheap, probably, and but if you can get that in line, you know, a pretty cheap spammable card, then this card's probably pretty good. But not like blowing the doors off of me, because it has enough of a setup cost. Okay, quest costs 0. You may discard an attack, 2 curses, or 6 cards. If you do, gain a gold. Okay. So yeah. Well, you need to have, obviously I think this is best in, is it just a bad, probably pretty bad? I mean, it costs 0, so that helps it a lot. It's not very often that you're gonna probably have 6 cards that you discard for a gold. If you have 6 cards, you could probably buy gold anyway by playing them for money in a big money deck. You can, obviously if you're discarding 2 curses, then that's good. In an engine, you probably don't really want gold, and like 6 cards in an engine. And then, yeah, so like the curses thing seems the best. Like, I had 2 curses collide because I've gotten cursed a lot. Witch comes to mind, Young Witch, those kinds of things. I can get a gold out of it, and my deck's going to turn pretty sloggy. Like, I'm not going for an engine after that. But gaining a gold is pretty nice. Discarding an attack, I mean, I'm sure that'll come up some, but I don't know. I guess a Sea Hag. In Sea Hag games, after the Sea Hag isn't useful anymore, you turn it into a gold. That's nice. I don't think it's like nice for big money. How often are you going to have a draw card and not be able to buy gold? Like, sure, it's fine, but it's not a huge help, I don't think. Like, if you're playing big money moat, yeah. Or maybe big money smithy, like, you're just usually gonna, I don't know. Yeah, tunnel is a combo. And you just gain a lot of golds, but okay. Raid. Raid costs 5. Gain a silver per silver you have in play. Each other player puts his... I will note that these attacking... this is like an attack event, but it doesn't count as playing an attack card. It's like things that... Yeah. So, anyway. You can't block this attack. Gain a silver per silver you have in play. Each other player puts his -1 card token on top of his deck. So this seems pretty bad. I guess it can be good for Fiatum. Maybe if I'm playing Masterpiece and like I can have like 3 silvers in play and somehow not have the 8 that I'm looking for because I'm playing big money, Silver Flood. Like, I do this, like if I'm gaining 3 silvers, that's probably better than gaining a gold. So if I'm hitting like 6 or 7 based on having 3 silvers, then yeah, I guess I'll gain 3 more silvers rather than get a gold. But that seems like a pretty marginal upgrade. And I guess you gotta deny them a card, but like, eh. This is like a marginal upgrade. Sometimes you'll know when it's like when it is better, but yeah, probably combos with Storyteller, sure. Okay, this is like gotta be one of the weaker ones. Okay, save. Because we're coming towards the end now. Save is costs 1. It gives you your buy back, so plus a buy. So this just costs 1 money. You get your buy back. Once per turn, you set aside a card from your hand and put it into your hand at the end of your turn after drawing. This card seems really nice. You just gotta have like a... This is like everything Haven wants to be, but just like so much better. So much better than like your Haven or whatever that similar thing that 3 costs that's like a moat that you can Haven up to 2 things in this set. This just seems like way better. I mean, it's more vulnerable to discard attacks, but like Borrow, it's just like a very nice utility thing, I think. Right? It only costs some money. It doesn't cost you your buy because you get your buy back. And just like a lot of times, you can, you know, in an engine, like, you get to stick that extra draw component back. Like, that's pretty good. In big money, you get to, you know, like, oh, well, I had 7, and well, okay, you probably weren't. Like, in big money, it's like, yeah, if you have terminal collision, like, okay, I'm gonna stick my thing back, my other terminal. It says once per turn, so it's not like you can set aside a whole turn's worth of stuff. Yeah, I mean, just like, like, I guess sometimes in big money, like, you have that hand where it's like all your money clumped together and you made like 15. Well, now I can buy this, set aside a gold, and still buy my province. Like, okay. That's not that great, but it's a nice role player. It is probably better in engines, but big money can use it to help collisions. So I think it's pretty good. Scouting Party. Scouting Party costs 2. It gives you your buyback. So this is a little bit of more of a cost than save. Like save, you often have just 1 extra money. Here you need to have 2 extra money, which starts to be impinging on you a little bit more, but let's see. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Discard 3 of them and put the rest, which should be the other 2, back in any order. Yeah, this seems reasonable. Another utility card, probably not super great, but better than Scout. Yeah, this one's hard for me to evaluate. I mean, I guess you get to set up your next card pretty well, but it does cost you 2 money. That's probably actually pretty good. But just like, I don't know, not amazing. Like, you usually want to spend most of your money. I don't know. Yeah. Hard to say. Could actually be decent in big money. Yeah. Assemble Me says whenever you have spare 2 money, you're going for it. I think that's true. I think the question is, like, how much do you downgrade your buy a little bit to go for it? It can make things skip that you don't want to skip, but usually you're just probably going to want to do that to do this, to cycle you more and to get the filtering. Yeah. Okay, anyway. I'm going to move on now. I'm going to go to Seaway. Seaway costs 5. Gain an action costing up to 4. Move your +1 buy token to its pile. So you're spending an extra money when you're getting your 4 cost, or an extra 2 money when you're getting a 3 cost. And you get a plus buy on it. This one seems like the weakest of all the vanilla bonuses to me. But sometimes you just need buys, and sometimes you need lots of buys, so it's probably fine. I just like, this doesn't excite me. I guess the thing is, like, you can put it on like a village or smithy or something, and that way you don't have to buy cards. But and you do get a copy of that card, so like, you'll probably want it pretty often if you're building an engine, but I don't see it as being like super hot. Seprix asks, what does excite me? Like, Fairy excited me, Lost Arts excited me, this kind of excited me. Actually, there are other cards higher up that, like, this card excites me even though it's not like super strong. This card kind of excites me. This card kind of excites... Well, whatever. I'll talk about what excites me after I finish. Yeah. Okay, trade. Trade. Trash up to 2 cards from your hand. Gain a silver per card trashed. The problem with this is, like, you need to have 5 money. And, and have those cards in your hand, and you just gotta upgrade them into silvers. Like, if it were any cheaper, the card would be very, 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 very good. As it is, it's probably still pretty good, actually. Like, it doesn't cost a card in your deck, and you get the effect immediately. So that makes it, like, a lot better than mine. You get to turn your estates into silvers. Like, if you hit 5, like, I don't know. It's gonna be a bit situational, because, like, silver's usually, like, not that great, but I mean, Kevin's fine. Okay, next, training. Training is, it costs 6. And you get to move your +1 money token to an action supply pile. Anytime you play a card from that pile, you get a money first. Sure. This one seems pretty significantly worse than Lost Arts to me, I think. Though again, sometimes it'll be better, like if you already have plenty of actions for whatever reason, then adding a money just can make you get like 4 or 5 money every turn. But like, okay, you're buying this and you're getting 4 or 5 money every turn, and it doesn't take a slot in your deck, so that's pretty good in an engine. Yeah, I mean, this is probably pretty strong, but not like broken like Fairy or Lost Arts, and probably not as. It's probably about as good as Pathfinding, I would guess, actually. I mean, it's strong, because it's just like, it's extra money without having to put the card in your deck, which is pretty nice. Yeah, okay. Traveling Fair, the last thing, the last event. There aren't anything after the event, so this is the last thing here. Costs 2, gives you plus 2 buys. And when you gain a card this turn, you may put it on top of your deck. So you get the Royal Seal Watchtower effect, which yeah. Okay, so first of all, here you're going to spend 2 money to make an extra buy. So if you're lacking on plus buys, you can just use this, but you need to have a bunch of extra money. And then the top decking thing, I mean, it's nice, but it probably doesn't seem that great. Obviously, if you're going to spend the money anyway, go for it. If you need the plus buys, this can do it for you. But in general, yeah, I'm not really looking at this as a power event. But okay. Let's talk about the things that I think are strongest and the things that I like the most. I like Trade. I don't think it's that strong necessarily. I like Save quite a bit. Mick points out that it's pretty good on a 4-3 split with certain power 2s, which surely he means Chapel, because you get a Chapel on turn 2 that way. Yeah, that'd be very good. You might even want to do that turn 1 if you had a 5-2. I can imagine a lot of times you'd want to do that just to Chapel faster, but we'll see. Especially since you're more likely to be able to Chapel a bunch of estates. So, yes. Okay. So, I like Trade. I don't think it's super strong. Training seems quite strong. Lost Art seems really strong. Pathfinding seems pretty strong. Fairy seems very, very strong. Like Busto broken. Expedition seems pretty good. I like Alms a lot. I like Bonfire a lot. I like Borrow a lot. These, meh. I think I like Distant Lands, although it's mostly because it's hard to figure out. I like Port. Relic's okay. I really like Treasure Trove. Go figure. I think I like Raise. Ratcatcher seems pretty good. I also like it quite a bit. I like Messenger a lot. I'm less convinced that it's super strong, but it's probably pretty good. Ball. Oh, Magpie seems pretty good. Lost City seems pretty good. I like Guide a lot. I like Caravan Guard a lot, even though I don't think it's necessarily that great. And I kind of like Duplicate. I'm coming around on Duplicate. Yeah. Set looks sweet. Lots of interesting decisions, lots of difficult decisions. So, yeah, what do you guys all think in the chat land? Anything you want to bring up? Anything you want to ask about? Anything? Treasure Trove and a deck with a couple of counterfeits seems nice. How do I rate this expansion compared to the others? It's so hard to say. I haven't played it yet. I mean, it seems sweet. It seems like... there's a lot of interesting decisions. Like a lot more play decisions a lot. But just like more skill-intensive decisions. So I think I'm going to like it. But... it's going to be a while before I really know, probably.